Now, I must say that I have never given anybody else's talk, so this is going to be interesting. However, I'm not terribly concerned about it because there's only one mind, right? Only one mind, and that infinite mind is everywhere all the time. So I know that in that unity and in that divinity, this is just a wonderful divine appointment, and we are going to have a good time.
Yep.
And we are. So the title of the talk today is Divine Right Action. And there's a lot of conversation about divine right action. I know that you've heard Reverend Stephen say in some of his talks and everything that when we can pray divine right action. Well, I was having lunch with some folks that I know, some of my friends, and we were talking about what exactly does that mean? You know, what happens when you pray divine right action? Well, divine right action means that God created and knows the big picture. That God knows how everything interacts with everything else. And it means that there is harmony within each thing in the universe that bonds one element to another. It is the best or the most. It is perfection. Do I have any feedback on this? Can you crank me down a hair there? I don't want to be echoing in everybody's ears. I could hear it, so I figured you had to. Want to be keeping you going for the duration of this thing. So what actually happens when we pray divine right action? Well, Ernest Holmes, our founder, stated this. He said, we should think of our spirit being some part of the universal spirit, and of our minds as open to the divine influx. As any specific knowledge must come from the center of all knowledge, it follows that whenever and wherever the mind of man is open to the divine influx, it will receive instruction directly from the center and source of all that is. Sounds easy, doesn't it? All we have to do is stay open and info comes in. Well, that's good. When we accept and allow that divine influx, it happens really well. And we know that however a situation, we rest in the absolute faith and trust that however a situation turns out, infinite wisdom and intelligence directs that outcome. This lifts our prayer up to the realm of what our human vision and condition can not conceive, and allows the infinite to provide beyond our limits the things that we know as humans, beyond that little constraint that we have within us that we've been watching for years and deciding that must be how it is. So, in every one of us, there is a divine essence that is hardwired into the genetic, spiritual material from which we emanated. We were created by spirit, right? And in us, every little particle, there's some of it in there. So that divine essence that is within each and every one of us is available to us every minute of the day, always. When we commune with that divine essence, when we confer, when we have planning committee meetings with it, we open to the infinite to guide us with great love and joy. We step out of that human conditioned thought frame that says, no, you can't do this, or you must do it this way. We step out of that panic that then propels us into the idea, as soon as there's a little bit of a challenge, well, how am I going to fix this? What am I going to do? And we start planning and thinking, and all the little hamsters in our head are going round and round and round and round, right? You know what I mean about those hamsters. That's part of what we got born with, was the hamsters. They came in too. And they go on those little wheels, and their little arms and their hands are moving. So when we open to the infinite to guide and assist us with great love and joy, we have a wider range of possibilities. In fact, infinite possibilities are available to us for anything that we think, do, or pray about, or ask for. And divine right action is a very good way to pray. And by all means, always ask for what you want help with. We can talk to the infinite about anything. Anything that you want to do, anything that you want to be, anything that you want to have, any direction that you want to take. Talk to Spirit about everything you can think of. Now I have to say that the infinite is closer than our breath. And that's what was meant in the Bible when the quote said, pray without ceasing. Make every word a prayer. I'll tell you, I talk to the infinite all the time, and I have friends who laugh at me. I was telling a friend of mine the other day, I go down the grocery store aisle and I'm talking to God, and everybody thinks I'm some daffy old lady. But I really do, and I find that companionship, that divine essence, that integration of the one that is within us, that is within me, that is within you, within every one of us, is always there when we reach out to connect. It's always there, it never fails. Sometimes it looks like it, but that's because we don't really understand, because we think with our little human mindsets. We think through those filters of human condition, and we believe that that is what's real. When in fact, the power and the principle of spirit that is the creative power only knows perfection. So God really wants us to create. That life force essence that created everything is the same life force essence in us that is the creative spark in us that wants to do, it wants to think, it wants to know, it wants to be. We have such infinite abilities for creative expression. And Spirit really wants us to use that creative medium. Wants us to have lives filled with all the good that we can possibly have. All we have to do is respect that supreme knowledge and vision of Source. We can just know that it sees it all, how it all fits together, and what each cell of the universe is trying to do or become. Now, have you ever thought about the universe as having cells? We've got cells in our bodies, right? We have cells, we've got billions of cells, and they're making themselves new all the time. But what about the cells in the universe? It's an interesting thought, isn't it? So all of those cells that we know that are in harmony in our body, even when we have some things going on that don't seem so harmonious, all of those cells have a perfection element in them that is spirit. It is that divine essence. And they know exactly what to do, just as every cell of the universe knows that also. When we tell God what to do and how to run the world, have you done that? I have. I can remember one day I said, okay, God, this ain't working for me. This is not okay. This is what I want from you. This is how I want this to be. Well, when we do that, we send a message to the divine that we don't trust that divine infinite intelligence. And because we tend to create from human conditions, we also have a tendency to humanize God and make God a person. You can call it spirit, source, I don't care what name you use. We have no attachment to names here for that one all-originating spirit. When we humanize God and use a personality of, ooh, God wants this for me, or God wants that for me, we enter judgment. And then it's kind of like putting filters on spirit that doesn't have any spirit. Infinite spirit, infinite divine intelligence, infinite wisdom has no boundary. It has no restrictions. It has no judgment. It has no limitations. So this personalizing of it puts a limitation that then reinforces the human condition for us, this human condition of limitation. And then we're pretty sure that nothing's going to work out right. Well, it didn't work for me, and God can't do it either, so we better throw the baby out with the bathwater here. Excuse me. As we translate or picture the infinite as any kind of human condition, it really makes it harder for us to trust that. And therein Therein lies the benefit of divine right action. Ta-da. You thought I'd never get to it, did you? When we commune with the divine, we see evidence from spirit that surpasses human conditioned thoughts and results. We see things that happen that are sometimes unexplainable, sometimes seemingly miraculous, sometimes just really weird, and sometimes just plain funny. Because I do believe that there is a personalness to spirit that allows us to commune with it, and that there is that sense of humor, and there is that sense of compassion, and there is that warmth, and that wanting to hold us and be compassionate and care for us and nurture us with that infinite intelligence and that divine love that Karen spoke about, that divine love that exists within each and every one of us. So I say, trust God. Let's make God bigger in our lives and believe that it is helping us in every way to fulfill our greatness. We were meant to express and create beyond limitation. And if you look at the changes over the years in our lifetimes and the things that we've seen that have been created that are remarkable, we are great creators, and there is greatness. So let's be aware of how much Spirit trusts us to be unique expressions of itself. It says here, run with it. Take this infinite intelligence and power and beauty and love and joy and light that is me and run with it. It trusts us, it respects us, and it loves us. Open to trust the divine. Open to trust the divine to create the highest and greatest good in your life through divine right action. Allow it to know beyond human intelligence, beyond human conditioned visioning, through those little lenses that we have as humans. Put your spiritual lenses on. Look through your spiritual lenses as spiritual beings and lift up into that possibility and allow the divine right action of the infinite to propel your life in the most amazing ways. Even when we think nothing's happening, stuff is happening. When we think God isn't paying any attention to our challenges or to us, know that the divine is enfolding and evolving every part of the universe into a greater plan. And each and every one of us are a part of it. We are all cells of the universe. Think about it. So I'd just like to share this little story, and it may shed further light on how the infinite works. Bill was driving home one evening on a 2-lane road in the country. Work in the small Midwestern community was almost as slow as his beat-up Pontiac, but he never quit looking. Ever since the factory closed, he'd been unemployed, and with winter raging on, the chill had finally hit home. It was a lonely road. Not very many people had a reason to be on it unless they were leaving. Most of his friends had already left. They had families to feed and dreams to fulfill, but he stayed on. That was his home. After all, this was where he buried his mom and dad. He was born here, and he knew that country. He knew every road. He could go down this road blind and tell you what was on each side, and with his headlights not working, that came in handy. And now it was starting to get dark, and the light snow flurries were coming down. And he'd better get a move on because he wanted to get in before the roads got really bad. And you know, he almost didn't see the old lady who was stranded on the side of the road. But even in the dim light of just before twilight, he could see she needed help. So he pulled up in front of her Mercedes and got out. His Pontiac was still sputtering when he approached her. And even with a smile on his face, she was worried. No one had stopped to help her for the last hour or so. Was he going to hurt her? He didn't look safe. He looked poor and hungry. And he could see that she was really frightened standing out there in the cold. He knew how she felt. It was that chill that only fear can put in you. And he said, "I'm here to help you, ma'am. Why don't you wait in the car where it's warm? And by the way, my name is Bill." Excuse me. Well, she had a flat tire. But for an old lady, that was not a good thing. So Bill crawled under the car looking for a place to put the jack, and he skinned his knuckles a time or two, and soon he was able to change the tire, but he had to get his hands all dirty, and sometimes they got hurt. As he was tightening up the lug nuts, she rolled down her window and began to talk to him. She couldn't thank him enough for coming to her aid. She told him that she was from St. Louis and was only just passing through and had gotten stuck there. Bill just smiled as he closed her trunk. She asked him how much she owed him, and any amount of money would have been all right with her. She had plenty. She had already imagined all the awful things that could have happened had he not stopped. Bill never thought twice about the money. This was not a job to him. This was just helping someone in need, and God knows there were plenty who had given him a hand in the past. He had lived his whole life that way, and it never occurred to him to act any other way. He told her that if she really wanted to pay him back, the next time she saw someone who needed help, she could give that person the assistance they needed. And Bill added, "Just think of me." So he waited until she started her car and drove off. And it had been a cold and depressing day, but he felt really good and warm inside as he headed home, disappearing into the twilight. A few miles down the road, the lady saw a small cafe. She decided she wanted to grab a bite to eat and take the chill off before she made the last leg of her trip home. It was a dingy-looking restaurant, one of those little side road diner things. Sometimes they have the best food, though. Outside were 2 old gas pumps, and the whole scene was very unfamiliar to this lady who was very definitely in a different social strata than this town. The cash register was like the telephone of an out-of-work actor. It didn't ring much. Her waitress came over and brought a clean towel to wipe her wet hair. She had a sweet smile, one that even being on her feet for the whole day couldn't erase. The lady noticed that the waitress was nearly 8 months pregnant, but she never let the strain and eggs change her attitude. The old lady wondered how someone who had so little could be so giving to a stranger. And then she remembered Bill. After the lady finished her meal and the waitress went to get her change from a $100 bill, the lady slipped right out the door. She was gone by the time the waitress came back. She wondered where the lady could be, and then she noticed something written on a napkin with several $100 bills wrapped in it. There were tears in her eyes when she read what the lady wrote. It said, "You don't owe me a thing. I've been there too. Someone once helped me out the way I'm helping you. If you really want to pay me back, here's what you can do. Don't let the chain of love end with you." Well, there were tables to clear, sugar bowls to fill, and people to serve, but the waitress made it through another day. And that night, when she got home from work and climbed into bed, she was thinking about the money and what the lady had written, and how could she have known how much she and her husband needed this? With the baby due next month, it was going to be hard. She knew how worried her husband was, and as he lay sleeping next to her, she gave him a soft kiss and whispered in a soft, low voice and said, "Everything's going to be all right. I love you, Bill." Bill had been the one who changed the lady's tire. And so it is. Divine right action. So let's just follow our practice of prayer now. Yeah, we got to take a breath. That's powerful. That's divine right action. Nobody knew. They were just filled with love and passed it on. So nice. And with this holiday season, may it be a reminder to all of us to respond with love. That's our motto here. So just taking a moment and allowing that divine, infinite, loving presence that is always in us, as us, through us. It is the very core of our being, to just let it to settle in and to be within us and to feel it and to commune with us. Just open your heart now to that loving presence. Just open your heart now to the infinite love of the one that is expressing in, through, and as you every minute of the day. And as I speak this word today, I speak a word for everyone everywhere around the world who may be cold, hungry, fearful. And I know that divine right action prevails. Love prevails in every scenario. I trust that, and I have such great faith in the goodness of Spirit all the time. Not just sometimes, but all the time. And so I speak a word of divine right action and healing, knowing that love prevails everywhere. And for this spiritual family here, I know divine right action is always present, always guiding, always showing with infinite wisdom the very highest and greatest good for every person here and for everyone who is unable to be with us today. And just as I know that Spirit is good all the time, I know too that that divine essence within you, within each of us that we connect with, is fully present, waiting for us to turn in to that one infinite light and allow it to illuminate the paths that we walk on through the next days. So I just give great good thanks with a heart filled with gratitude, overflowing for all the blessings. And I simply release this word into the law of mind, knowing that it is already done. I just let it be, and we can affirm it by saying, and so it is. Wow. Thank you so much. Yeah. Maybe Stephen and I will have to do some more talks together.